Your ganache didn't split because you overheated it. Also, it did not break because you stirred it too fast or because you're bad at this. It split because of one molecule. That molecule is in the chocolate, but also in egg yolks. It's in every cell in your body. And almost everybody, including me, for years misunderstands what it's doing in there. Let's understand what is happening in your ganache, vegan or otherwise, to get a reliable result, and we will discuss how to fix it in a few minutes. Hi, I'm Dove. I've spent about 10 years in 5-star pastry kitchens. I've got a degree in food science and nutrition, so I get to look at this from two directions at once. The chef who's had a ganache break on service and the food science side that can tell me exactly why. Today we will discuss emulsions, specifically why the vegan ones are so much more fragile, what lecithin is really for, and how to fix a split ganache in about 40 seconds. And if you make dairy ganache, please stay as well. Yours might break for the same reasons, you just get a bigger safety net. A ganache isn't a mixture actually, it's an emulsion. Fat and water don't want to be together. When you shake them, you will get a temporary truce, but once you walk away, they will split back up. A ganache is millions of tiny fat droplets suspended in water. That beautiful signature ganache gloss is just droplet size. Smaller droplets means more light bouncing back, means more shine. And the fat is coming from two places: whatever cream you're using and the chocolate itself. For example, a 70% dark chocolate is roughly 40% cacao butter by weight. You're not adding chocolate to cream, you're adding a fat brick to cream. So when a ganache breaks, what you're seeing is the fat droplets finding each other and merging back into one big pool. There's a proper word for it, and it's called coalescence. Same thing that happens to a vinaigrette on the table. It has oil and vinegar mixed together, and by shaking it, you will get a temporary emulsion. To stop that, you need a peacemaker, a molecule with a split personality, one that loves water and the other that loves fat. It parks itself right on the boundary, head in the water, tails in the fat. And once a droplet is wrapped in a coat of these, it cannot merge with its neighbor because it physically sits in the way. And that is an emulsifier. And the most famous one in the kitchen is egg yolk. Mayonnaise, hollandaise, crème anglaise. Every one of these is a yolk standing between fat and water, helping them get along better. Back in the 1840s, a French chemist called Theodore Goblet pulled a fatty substance out of egg yolk and named it after a Greek word for yolk, lecithin. Lecithin literally means the yolk stuff. These days, it mostly comes from soy or sunflower, same molecule family, and it's everywhere. It's in your bread, margarine, ice cream, and yes, almost certainly in the chocolate as well. You see lecithin on the label, you think, great, my chocolate has an emulsifier built in, my ganache is protected. But it's not entirely true. Melted chocolate isn't the liquid, it's a suspension, which means sugar crystals and cacao solids floating in melted cacao butter. And sugar is water-loving, but fat is not. So the sugar crystals drag against each other and the whole thing flows like mud. Lecithin fixes that. Its water-loving head sticks to the sugar, its fatty tails stick out into the cacao butter, and suddenly every sugar crystal is wearing a slippery jacket, resulting in the chocolate starting to flow. That's what it's there for. Manufacturers use somewhere around a third to 0.5% by weight. It's doing a job in a world made of fat before any water ever shows up. So when you pour hot liquid in, that lecithin has already been assigned. It helps a little, but it's not the thing holding your ganache together. It's holding together by milk protein, mostly casein. Proteins are brilliant emulsifiers because they don't just sit at the boundary. They unfold across it and knit into a skin. It is flexible, slightly rubbery film wrapping around every droplet. Dairy cream is already a finished emulsion. When you make a dairy ganache, you're borrowing a stabilizer system that came already pre-installed. That's why dairy ganache feels so forgiving. Casein is helping you out a lot. Now, take the casein away. Coconut cream has some protein, but not much, and it doesn't build the same film. What it does have is a lot of fat. and a very particular kind. Coconut fat is mostly lauric acid, and lauric fats melt over a very narrow window, which is right around room temperature. When fat crystallizes fast inside an emulsion, those crystals can spear straight through the droplet walls, resulting in droplets grabbing onto each other. And that creates grainy and greasy texture. It's actually the same mechanism as churning butter. You're accidentally making a very sad butter. Oat cream is a different problem. It's largely water, starch, added oil, and a stabilizer package. It's held together by emulsifier someone chose for a carton of oat cream, not for the moment you drop 40% cacao butter into it. Almond is lovely and mostly protein-free in any useful sense. It brings water to a fat fight. And then there's soy, which we'll come back to because soy is a cheat code. What happens when ganache splits? Best and easiest solution is adding a small quantity of hot liquid, maybe around 10 to 15% of total ganache weight, and blending it. A split ganache is almost never too little fat. It's usually too much fat for the water it's got. You've overloaded water phase and there isn't enough of it left to hold all those droplets apart, so they merge. Add water back and you give the droplets room to separate again. Then blend and you shear them small, making ganache smooth and glossy again. Same fix works for hollandaise, for example. The chemistry does not care what you're calling it. You can also add lecithin directly, and for vegan ganache it helps a lot. Start somewhere around 0.3 to 0.5% of your total weight and treat that as a starting point rather than a rule. Powder and liquid behave differently, and the right number shifts with your chocolate and your cream, so you will need to dial it in on your own recipe. Disperse it into the warm liquid first, and it might sound counterintuitive, but more is not better. Past a certain point, extra lecithin stops helping and starts making things worse. It piles up in layers instead of forming one clean coat, and your ganache gets thicker again. This is one of the few places in pastry where I would tell you to use a scale that reads to 100th of a gram. Eyeballing it is how you end up with a soapy aftertaste and a ganache that might be stiffer than before. And if you want one simple upgrade, swap some of your liquid for soy. Soy has real functional protein that behaves at the fat-water boundary the way dairy protein does. It unfolds, it forms a film, and it holds. My default for vegan ganache is hybrid. Coconut cream for richness and body, soy milk for structure. You get the mouthfeel of the coconut with something actually policing the emulsion, which, when you think about it, is a very old idea wearing new clothes. We took the yolk out, so we went and found a plant that does the same job. Ganache is fat droplets held apart in water. Dairy gets that for free from casein. Unfortunately, plant creams mostly don't, so you have to build the stability yourself. The lecithin in your chocolate is there to make it flow, not to save your ganache. If you want lecithin doing emulsion work, you add it on purpose and you weigh it. And when it splits, it's because ganache is thirsty. Add warm liquid, blend it. It takes extra maybe 30 seconds. If you found this informative and would like to geek out with me more, I welcome you to subscribe because food science and pastry is what I do here on this channel. That being said, thanks for watching and I will see you later. Bye!